Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Roll Up Varsity. I am Connor, and I'll be going solo tonight. Curtis had prior obligations that he had to take care of, couldn't join us this evening. So it's just going to be myself. We've got a guest coming on here in a bit, but a good show coming up nonetheless. But before we get into that, obviously want to shout out our title sponsor, Intense Fitness. Intense Fitness is an elite one-on-one personal training facility located at 1536 East Commercial Boulevard in Oakland Park, Florida. Established in 2012, they've developed a reputation for training all walks of life, from high-level athletes to the senior communities. Mention you heard about Intense Fitness on the Roll Up Varsity podcast to receive a complimentary workout and evaluation. Once again, that's Intense Fitness, located at 1536 East Commercial Boulevard in Oakland Park, Florida. Mention that you heard about them from the Roll Up Varsity podcast, either myself or from Curtis, or Sticks as he likes to go by, and you will receive a complimentary workout and evaluation. But now that we've got that out of the way, we've got a couple top schools going on this week. Not a lot going on, like Curtis and I have both said in previous episodes. A lot of kids are going to be focusing on their seasons, so you won't see a lot of those top schools dropping. You won't see a lot of commitments at this time. But there are some commitments lined up over the course of the next week or so. So the Roll Up Varsity crew will be putting in their predictions. Taylor's going to be keeping track of us, make sure that we are good to go as far as that goes, and see if we can keep our 100% shooting percentage. But before we get into all of those predictions and stuff like that, we've got a couple prospects that have released top schools. The first one being four-star linebacker Blake Nicholson from Manteca, California. He's narrowed his list down to three schools: Oregon, Florida State, and UCLA. He has his commitment date set for September 20th. So that will be next week on Tuesday. So that'll be the time that we're recording next week. So we'll be able to see if I was correct in my prediction there. I'll give you my prediction on that one for Nicholson here in just a moment when we get towards the scheduled commitments. Then we have fast rising defensive lineman Sam Green from St. Francis Academy in Baltimore, Maryland. He's narrowed his list down to four schools: Boston College, Penn State, USC, and Texas A&M, with a commitment date set for September 15th. Sam Green is somebody that is not ranked by the recruiting services as of yet, somebody that's received all of those four offers for his top four schools over the last 3 weeks. So somebody that's really burst onto the recruiting scene over the first couple weeks of his senior season. So St. Francis is a powerhouse program, always cranks out top-level talent. He's got a pretty solid offer list now with Boston College, Penn State, USC, and Texas A&M throwing their hats into the ring, like I said, over the last 3 weeks. He will be making his commitment Thursday when we drop this episode on ESPN2, because St. Francis will be televised playing Venice, Florida. So he will be making his commitment before that game. But before we get into anything else, we've got our guest in the waiting room, so I want to make sure that we get him in here so we can chop it up a little bit. And joining us today is Coach Chris Mitchell. Coach Mitchell is the founder, head coach, and defensive coordinator of well-known and well-respected 7-on-7 program 24K, as well as the defensive backs coach at West Orange High School here in the Orlando area. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well, blessed.
Always. So, always a pleasure to talk to you, man. I enjoy our conversations over Twitter, over text message, in person, because you're always a wealth of knowledge. I wanted to get you on the podcast because not just as a coach, but you also get the opportunity to kind of see things from the recruiting side as well, because you deal with so many of these young athletes. But first and foremost, before we get into all of that, kind of give everybody a little backstory about yourself, how long you've been coaching, how long you've been working in the 7-on-7 industry, and that stuff.
Well, I mean, I've been doing 7-on-7 now for a while. Probably been about, I'd say maybe about 12 years now. Doing 7-on-7. But just a little bit about myself. I've been coaching high school football now 10 years. I started off at Oak Ridge High School with Elijah Williams. And Ricky Waters, it was a funny time with that regime. It's like half the season was Ricky Waters, and the other half I finished off with Elijah Williams, and I did 2 years with him, and then I transferred over to Winter Park, where I was for 6 years, and then now this is my second stint here with West Orange. So I mean, I was a receivers coach when I started coaching high school ball, and transferred over to the defensive side of the ball. When I was coaching with when I started 7-on-7, Keywan Ratliff, who is a former Gator, Gator All-American, you name it, I mean, he's got all the accolades up there in Gainesville, but he's the one who kind of introduced me to the game of 7-on-7. And I started with him. We started his team when he was doing 7-on-7 Rat Pack. I helped start that with him, and just kind of grew. Learned a lot from him, and just kind of kept on going with it. And then just kind of did something on my own when he left, and went on to the college game, and did something on my own. And so far, it's been so good, and it's been a blessing doing it. But yeah, I mean, I am on that, the whole high school recruiting side too, as well. I know I take my kids everywhere I can, whenever I have time to, and I just try to get those guys seen and get some exposure.
So starting a 7-on-7 team from the ground floor, I'm sure it has a lot of work put into it. It takes a lot of personal time, and then you have to also establish that relationship with those kids to kind of, I guess, pull them from other programs or get them to buy into your program itself. What is that kind of like? Kind of give us a little bit of a background on that.
I mean, it starts with having good people around you. I feel like I have that. I got a lot of good people around me. Coach Damon Jones, who's my assistant head coach, my offensive coordinator. It's like my right hand man when it comes to a lot of things. Coach Stephen Moffitt, who's the offensive coordinator at Winter Park High School. Also, he was a former QB at UCF. So, I got those two guys in my pocket, man, and they're and I mean, I can't go wrong with them too. Those guys, they give me kind of the real wheels that I need. You know what I mean, to just keep kind of rolling. But yeah, the whole dynamic with kids is, I want to say it's just like a college thing. You got to recruit these kids to come play for you. Give them a why. Why they want to come play for you. What do you have going on? Because there's a lot of 7-on-7 teams out there that pretty much have similar things going on. But we try to be different. We want to be a real, true traveling 7-on-7 team. I mean, we're based out of Florida, but our dynamic, we're trying to do a lot of stuff outside the state of Florida, just for the simple fact that certain kids don't get that opportunity to just travel and do certain things. So us giving them the opportunity to play out of state, to play against other kids from other states, and just give them that kind of exposure. And we try to play on the best platforms, like whether it's a battle circuit. We were just invited to that OT7 that just started, which was huge. It was a great experience for the kids. But even just to touch on that a little bit, we flew out to LA before we even got to Vegas. We flew to LA, went to UCLA, USC on visits, and then we drove the kids to Las Vegas from there. So I mean, it's just one of those deals where, we are really like locked in with the kids and what we're trying to do. And, we've always been about the kids. A lot of like everything that I would tell people, man, everything from my 7-on-7 organization, it comes straight out of love. Like there's nothing that we do that is trying to suck anything away from those kids. Everything that we do is for them. We mean what we say when we say we love those kids, like we really do, because, it takes a lot of love to do half the stuff we do. You know what I mean? Like you just got to love what you're doing. And I think, we do a good job of showing the kids that, that's, we do love them and we want to see them prosper, and, reach their goals and, live out their dreams of playing at the next level.
Yeah, it's quite. I've talked to you about kind of the behind the scenes work a little bit, and what you guys do for the individuals and the team as a whole is unreal. You have to be extremely dedicated and very selfless to be able to do what you guys do, and it's awesome to get your side of things because we have the recruits come on all the time. and talk about their recruiting process. But I think the unsung heroes are obviously the parents, the 7-on-7 coaches, those people that
100%.
sacrifice their time and energy to be able to take these kids out there. You said you flew them out to LA, saw UCLA, USC before going to Vegas for OT7, which is something you guys did not have to do. Could have flown straight into Vegas, done the tournament, and then came back home, which is awesome to hear. But since you mentioned UCLA, USC, I've never been out to Cali. What was that like, man? How beautiful is Cali out there? What was the kids' experience? What was your experience? How'd that go?
Well, I mean that whole experience was great, man. I mean, I've been to Cali a couple of times. I've never been to UCLA or USC, so that was the first for me. So I mean, even on top of the kids, I mean, it was just them being able to see the Florida States, the Floridas. We went to LSU for that battle tournament that we did in New Orleans that we ended up winning. We went to a lot of places. I think this year we've traveled to like 11 different schools. And for us to go out to California, I thought it was a great experience for the kids. It was beautiful. Everything about it was beautiful. The coaches, they treated us with nothing but respect. USC was especially, I think the USC was a tad bit more special, in the dynamic that, we were able to sit down with the head coach and, the rest of the coaches that were involved with USC, and being able to sit there. We took pictures with the coach, obviously, and, did things of that nature, but just toured the campus. And, like I said, it was a great experience. The kids got to eat food, on campus and whatnot out there. So, it was a good dynamic, that we added, to that whole travel. Instead of just going out to Vegas and spending 4 or 5 days in Vegas, we wanted to be like, all right, let's take the kids one day. Let's go out to USC, try to go set up a visit with USC and UCLA, and then we can just drive back. So we were able to get, rally up some vans, and myself and Coach Jones, we drove the boys from California all the way to Las Vegas. It's like a 4 hour and 45-minute ride because traffic is awful. But other than that, it was a great experience. And it was great, like just the scenery, you know what I mean? You drive, these kids are usually seeing flat land, most of the kids are from Florida. They see flat land. Well, we went out there, we seen some mountains, you know what I mean? So, it was a pretty good experience just to witness that stuff. And, for the kids who will probably never take a trip out to Cali again, for some of the kids, they probably will, because, we had a lot of high caliber kids, the Charles Lesters of the world. We had, Jalen Hayward. We had a bunch of guys. Jordan Pride was there. We had a bunch of kids that, that are worth noting. And, they were able to go out there and go see some things, man. I really, really thought that it was a real cool trip. I think the kids would attest to it. And, we made it what it was. And I think, we did a good job of trying to expose those kids to those coaches and that coaching staffs. And, that's all you could ask for.
I was just about to say that, man. I was gonna have you pump the roster a little bit, but you just kind of mentioned a couple of the guys. You guys have quite the roster that and it's different every tournament that I've noticed. Kind of 7-on-7. Some kids are able to make some tournaments, others are not, which plays into that recruiting portion where you have to put your recruiting cap on and say, hey, listen, come with us out to New Orleans or to Vegas or what have you. But just without kind of sliding anybody on your roster, who would you say is probably a couple of the players that performed the best in your 7-on-7 season this year, whether it be single tournament, all season long, what have you?
Well, I mean, Jalen Hayward he's a special talent, man. The kid has a wealth of knowledge of football. I think that stems from, his coaching staff over there at Rockledge. Those guys, they know a lot about football. They've been around the game. And, just understanding the concepts and schemes that I run defensively, I think Jalen really excels in every aspect of the secondary. I line him up at nickel. I can line him up at safety. I can line him up at corner. And he understands it. Jordan Castell was another guy, he really, really plays the game. He's good. He's a physical kid. And, he can play multiple spots in the secondary as well. Jordan Pride's another kid, extremely athletic. We had Jordan only for like 2 tournaments. It was a memorial. We played. He was with us for Memorial Day, Cam Newton's tournament in Atlanta, and OT7, and he played phenomenal, extremely well. Dante Joyner out of Lakeland High School. Man, I mean, I know the kid doesn't get enough buzz or, whatnot. He might not be, the most heralded recruit on his team. But, when I say pound for pound, just extremely athletic and gifted, the kid can play football. And, he's a dynamic football player for us. He was really good this season. We had Bryson Rogers, who's out of Tampa. He played for Team Tampa out there in the Tampa area with Coach Grady. And, he came and played with us for a few tournaments. The kid is unreal, and I understand why, the success that Team Tampa had this past season. They have kids on their roster like that. The kid's special. Isaiah John Baptiste, he's a wide receiver at Winter Park High School right now. Man, when I tell you pound for pound, probably the best slot receiver that, maybe I've ever been able to coach or, just even have on my team. Man, the kid has amazing route game. He's got good hands. He's got really good speed. But just his ability to get open, it was second to nobody. I mean, I love that kid. I think the world of him. And hopefully, I hope his recruitment picks up. This season thus far, he's got like 6 touchdowns for Winter Park, and that's like through 3 games. And they're off to an undefeated season right now. Colin Hurley, I don't know what else to say about that kid. He's the best freshman quarterback, the best 2025 quarterback in the country. We lined up at tournaments, and he competed and performed with the best of them. I mean, it didn't matter the grade, regardless, it didn't matter. He was just outperforming guys. Darren Goldie Lawrence, grown man. If I had one word to say, he's a grown man. That kid is unreal. When we were in Battle New Orleans, I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback and a receiver like Colin Hurley and Darren Lawrence really connect the way they did. The kid was unreal. He took the tournament over. There was never a moment in any game where we felt like we weren't going to score a touchdown. There was, I mean, our championship game, we didn't give up any touchdowns, against it was Texas, DEFCON Texas. So, we played them, and, like I said, we didn't give up a touchdown, and we scored almost on every single possession, I think, except for one. But, man, it was a sight to see. Kinsley Falston is another kid who's he's at Naples High School right now. Unbelievable. The kid, he gets it. He understands football, plays his position the way he needs to be played. Not enough good things I can say about that kid. Obviously Charles Lester, we had him for OT7. Kid's unreal. He's a dynamic athlete on either side of the ball. And put like this, he's got a lot of stock, right now. I know college coaches are going after him hard, and they have every reason to. The kid can play football at a very, very, very high level. And I witnessed it against high level competition against every team that we played. Let me see. I know we have a lot of kids. Zachary Toby was another kid who performed for us. He's a DB out of Ocoee High School here in Orlando. He did some really good things for us. Long DB, 6'2", real good athleticism. He played well for us as well. I think he's committed to Illinois right now. So, I mean, it speaks volume of the kid. He's good. And we had 3 kids out of Alabama: Jaden Coleman, Rydarius Morgan, and Jaquan Sanks. Those kids know how to play football. They're from the Alabama area. I think they're at Phoenix City. Phoenix City. Yeah, it's one of those schools out there, man. One of them Alabama schools out there, man. But those kids can flat out play football. They are football players. Hopefully they get some recognition. They're all 2024 kids, and they all play in the secondary. And I got to witness, those kids do some really good things in Cam Newton's tournament as well as OT7. So, they were with us for 2 tournaments as well. Whew, man, we had kids for days. I'm sitting here trying to wrap my I was trying to wrap my mind around,
It
how many
seems
we
like the list
had.
is just endless, man. The list is endless.
It goes on and on.
Every tournament was a little different. You got to see a couple different people at different spots, and I know every time you sent me the roster for the tournament, I was like, "Dang, that kid's playing this week. That kid's there this week." I think though, one of my favorites that you actually told me about before he kind of burst onto the scene. I think it
Mhm.
was. I don't know if it was really, really early into this year's 7-on-7 or towards the end of last year's. Simply because I love his end zone celebration. Was Rick Darius Farmer.
See, that's the
So
thing. I got so many
goes by Day
names.
Day Farmer. That
Yes,
man, I've
sir.
never seen anybody moonwalk in cleats on turf, but somehow he's
Mm.
found a way to do it. But it seemed like during 7-on-7 season, every time you guys were at a tournament, he was highlighted. Just an unbelievably quick slot receiver that finds a way to get
Mhm.
open and just has breakaway speed. But I always enjoyed after he scored watching
That
that Michael
moonwalk.
Jackson celebration, moonwalking on turf and cleats. I don't know how he does it, but it's very impressive, almost as
Very
impressive as his play.
correct. Yeah, that kid is unreal, man. I mean, like I said, man, there's a million names I can sit here and rip off all day. But that kid, man, special talent, man. When the first time he came with us, and I was just able to watch him run routes, I knew he was a player. Like I think there was no doubt in my mind. I mean, SFE wanted him to play with them they wanted him this year. I'm just thankful that he came with us, and he ran with us. He was with us from the start of the season. So, that in itself to me spoke a lot, spoke volume, of the kid and, that he really does, he appreciates what we do, on and off the field and everything that we've done for him thus far, as far as like the traveling and stuff like that. I thought he really, really embraced what we had going on, and he was real, real special for us. So I mean, can't say enough about the kid. That kid, he's a great kid. He's awesome. What I mean, he's an attitude that you want. He was all about team. You know, um, like I said, can't say enough about him. Good player. Anthony Benjamin's another one. He was with us last year, but he started the season off with us this year. But I know he was just trying to get into his bag and get into what he was doing out there at Dunbar High School. That kid is electric. He's another slot receiver that I wish that we could have had him for the whole season, but I always want to kid, hey, if you got to go, work on your craft, well, go work on your craft, man. I'm not going to be one to hold you for 7-on-7 or anything like that. I'm always about the kids getting better and doing what they need to do to perform. So Anthony Benjamin's another one of those kids that I can speak high of. He's a great kid. He was a phenomenal athlete, and he did a lot of good things for us. And as far as like his OT7, not OT7, but when we first had him last year, he had some amazing runs that got all kind of views and everything, just human joystick type moves. So he was one of those guys that just really performed. My cameraman, Elite Empire. I mean, he was one of the guys that caught the moments. He caught a few moments, and man, I can't say enough about that guy. I mean, sometimes, I don't think the content creators really get enough credit, for what really goes on. But, Tamaris Hill is his name. He was a guy that, he really, really like embraced what we did. He appreciated everything that we did. He knows what we do for these kids, and he knows exactly how it is as far as trying to get guys, where they're trying to go. So, having him follow us for a few tournaments was great. We went to an Iowa tournament when he was working for Championship 7-on-7, and he was able to capture some moments that was cool. We were up in Iowa, kids got to play in the snow. How many Florida kids get to play in the snow? You know, um, and we won the championship out there. I mean, we went out there. It was it. I don't want to say it was easy because it wasn't. Nothing came easy. But you could definitely tell that Florida football players are definitely different than other states. And I think the coaching here in Central Florida, especially the coaching here is ridiculous. I think we got a real good set of teams. We got a real good set of coaches here in this area, and it shows because we were getting highlighted by like a bunch of offers this year for whatever reason. There's a bunch of kids in this area that were getting offered, and that's a testament to these coaches, doing everything that they can for their kids, and also allowing the 7-on-7 guys to go out there and travel with their kids and do some different things and put them on different stages, and allowing those kids to showcase their talents. So even guys like Tavian Swint, that's a name that you guys are going to hear a lot of. The most dynamic back that I've come across. I was able to coach against him last year with West Orange. We played them twice from Osceola High School. We played them once in the regular season, and once for the playoffs. Let me tell you, that kid was the only kid that the defensive guys were watching. We had to stay tuned because we were like, man, this kid is dynamic. To be a freshman, I think he had like over 850 all-purpose yards, scoring touchdowns in the receiving game, in the run game. He's a guy that can just do everything. I mean, he can do it all. He's an every down back, and this year is showing. I think he had a 4-touchdown performance against Seminole. So, I mean, for us to have that kind of kid, that caliber, those caliber kids, man, I thought it was great.
Yeah, I'm Taylor will tell you, Curtis will tell you. You see it on the timeline. I pump Orlando heavy.
Yes.
I love seeing the kids from Orlando succeed, and I'm actually going to be in Lakeland this week or on Friday to see Osceola play Lakeland on Friday night. Really looking forward to seeing, like you said, Tavion Swint, John Walker, Derek LeBlanc, and then of course Lakeland side is stacked. You've got Brayshawn Williams, you've got Kamani McLean, Tyler Williams, Dante Joyner, who you highlighted earlier. So both of those teams are absolutely loaded. Really looking forward to that game on Friday night. But speaking of Friday nights, let's kind of transition over from 7-on-7 to high school football. You have been a part of 2 to 3 of the top programs in the Orlando area with Winter Park, West Orange, and Oak Ridge at the time when you were there as well, was well respected. You've had the opportunity to coach a number of kids that have gone to the Division I Power 5 level. What is it like to be a high school coach that when college coaches are coming out, like during the spring or when they're coming out on Friday nights and standing on the sidelines and just coming up to you talking about, hey, I know you coach this kid. What's he like? Is the conversations that you guys as high school coaches have to help get your kids to the next level?
I mean, those conversations, when we're communicating with other coaches from other colleges, those conversations are, for the most part about the kid's character. Because I think when you cut on the film, you can see that they can play football. They'll ask you certain things, but, for the most part, it's all about those kids' character and, how they conduct themselves off the field. And I think that goes a long way with guys that recruit at, the really good programs, because when you're building a team, you got to make sure you got high character guys, because high character guys, that kind of can fuel your program and it can really make you what you are. So, I mean, I like I said, I mean, I've been blessed to coach a number of highly, talented kids, at these schools that I've been at. And, Ethan Pouncey, he's at Florida now. Jordan Pouncey, he's at Florida too. Dakota Mitchell's another kid that I've been able to, to coach. And, like I said, I mean, Jordan Castell, Jaden Gibson, Javen Robinson, who's at Washington State, Matthew McDoom, who just scored a 95-yard kick return for Coastal Carolina. I mean, I've just had Nyquan Murray. When my first years at Oak Ridge, Nyquan Murray, who went to Florida State and put on a show for those fans. I've been blessed, man. I've been fortunate enough, to be around these kind of kids, man. And I got nothing but good things to say about them. Like I said, when we talk to the college coaches, a lot of it is just about character. Some coaches have questions about speed and top end stuff and his physicality and things of that nature. And you just gotta be honest. I'm not one to sit there and bash a kid for anything. Like I'm not gonna tear kids down. If you got character issues, they're gonna show. You know what I mean? And if you don't, then all I gotta do is gloat about you, and it's good, it's good when I'm like, I've been in just the situations where I can sit there and just talk highly of these kids because all these kids that I've been dealing with, man, like I said, I've been lucky and fortunate, man. They're high caliber. They're genetic freaks. These kids can play the game of football, and they do it at a high level. So, those conversations with those coaches usually they go pretty well. And then the thing about it is, as a high school coach, you don't want to give off the wrong information, because once you give off the wrong information, the likelihood of those guys coming back to talk to you about any of these kids, they're gonna be like, oh man, no, he's just one of those coaches that's just gonna sit there and pump the kids up. I'm not gonna sit there and talk to him. Let me go talk to somebody else. So, I'd rather be honest about everything. And, so if a kid has some deficiencies, yeah, you'll highlight it, but that's stuff that, those guys can fix when they get to college. Anything that's really deficient, things that they can coach in that aspect. You know what I mean? So those conversations usually are good though, man. And it's cool, because now when I have kids like that, and now, with the 7-on-7 and stuff, I'm a coach that they've heard before. So it's easier for us to get on those campuses, as far as that goes, man. It's good. It's good. It's a cool thing.
Like you said, you've been around some elite level talent. In my opinion, obviously you highlighted Jordan Castell, who's committed to go play at Florida. You've raved about that young man's character, versatility, playmaking ability. But also another one of the players in your secondary was just ranked as the #1 cornerback in the class of 2025. I know still a long way to go, but Ivan Taylor. Give us a little bit of insight on that young man, because for those that don't know about him, they're going to need to really quickly.
No, but Ivan Taylor, man, whoa. Oh, man. All right. So NFL pedigree. The kid is a football junkie. He loves the game of football. The game means so much to that kid that he works on his craft, not just on the field. We're talking film study. We're talking everything, every aspect of the game, and loves every aspect. Even when we're doing discipline stuff, he loves it. It doesn't matter. Like, you see a smile on his face when we have to do it. He just one of those kids you need in your locker room. Yeah. So, I mean, I know I'm a fan of a certain college team. So if you're hearing me, yeah, it's listen. When I mean he gets our back end lined up. He knows the fronts that we run. Like, he understands the defense. And I think for a kid that age, that is something to be said. He's young, and he was doing it as a freshman. He played sparingly. We did have a rear loaded team, so he played sparingly. But some of his best, like his fondest moments to me, I mean, that kid had like the first pick six that we had the whole season. And it was just like, I'm just like, man, the kid, like I said, he loves football. He's the son of Ike Taylor, and he has the NFL pedigree. He's put like this. There's no doubt in my mind, with health and everything else that goes along with it, he's going to be playing on Sunday. There's no doubt in my mind. Like, there's not a glitch. He will be playing on Sunday. And that's just because of how he operates. It's the way he works his craft. It's the way he goes about playing the game. I think he's going to be, when he's probably topped out growth wise, he probably going to end about 6'2", 6'1 and a half, 6'2 ish. He's going to run in those low 4.5, 4.4 ranges. He's got it. He's a contact player. He plays with speed. He's just one of those kids that really, really wants to be great. He wants to be better than what his dad was. It's gonna be hard. That's a tall task to climb.
That's a tough task.
That's a tough task, but I mean, that's his goal, man. His goal, he wants to be better than his dad, and he shows it. He comes out there every day and he works his ass off. He's one of those kids that you fall in love with instantly. You start talking to him and you fall in love with his humbleness. I remember he didn't even know he was ranked like the #1 corner. When I told him that, he was like, "For real?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, man, as a coach, man, like I said, man, I've just been in blessed situations, man, blessed positions, and that kid is a blessing. You know what I mean? He makes a coach look good. That's how, I could say it, I think Nick Saban said it, good players make coaches look good. And guess what? They make me look good. Between him and Jordan Castell, I have a few more players in there. Latory Hollinger, I got some guys that, that can play football, man. They love the game. And them guys really show it every day when they go out there and they work on that field. But that kid Ivan Taylor, man, he's special. That is a special individual. He's a special human being. He's a 5-star player in my heart, 5-star person. There's not enough good things I can really say about him, but if I had to just put it like he's your perfect player. You know what I mean? He's one of those kids that you need in your locker room. He's a kid that you need, and that's I really don't got much else good to say. He's that perfect player that you need.
Well, we will certainly be out there at some point this year to check you guys out. Obviously, I'll be out there. I gotta get some video of Jordan because gotta make sure that I get the videos of him performing well. But I definitely am looking forward to
Absolutely.
seeing Ivan play in person. Obviously, the rest of the team, West Orange has a phenomenal program. The young
Yeah.
quarterback that's getting it's Trevor Jackson, right?
Trevor Jackson, yes,
Yes,
sir.
I saw him throw at I think the Under Armour camp over the summer. The ball
Mhm.
just jumps off of his hands. It's unreal the
Yeah,
kind of
he's
arm talent
special.
he is, and I think he's a 2024 kid, so I think his recruitment is probably going
Yeah,
to blow up here over the next couple months and into next spring as well.
yeah,
But
man.
yeah, Coach, man, I really appreciate you joining us, talking so much. I told you about 15 to 20, and
I know.
it kind
It's
of
all
spanned out
good.
into about 30 minutes. Didn't want to take up too much of your time this evening, but I really appreciate you coming on here and giving us the coach's side of things when it comes to
Yes,
seven
sir.
on seven in high school and the recruiting process and all that good stuff. But before we
Yes,
get you out
sir.
of here, if you want to just let everybody know where they can follow you on social media, um, and just other than that, just
Yeah.
you say your little piece, man.
Yeah, man. My name is Coach Mitch. You can follow me on Twitter at cmitch2284. The same thing on Instagram. Follow the 24K page on Twitter and Instagram as well at 24/7. 24K 7v7 on Twitter, 24K 7v7 on Instagram as well. There's a lot of content out there for you guys. We got videos, highlight videos, and everything on there on our Instagram. But yeah, man, I mean, that's about it. I love what I do. I love the kids that I'm able to touch. Like I said, I'm blessed. They put a smile on my face. Anytime I get to brag on those kids, I take any minute I can to go ahead and make sure that anything that I say with their names, is going to be full of love and it's all grace. So I'm blessed.
Absolutely, man. Anybody that watches the YouTube video of this will definitely be able to see that the entire time you've been talking about these kids, you've been smiling from ear to ear. Genuinely, really appreciate everything that you do for all these
Yes, sir.
kids, and I'll keep pumping the Orlando area. I'm gonna keep coming out and supporting y'all
Of
at
course.
4K and then at West Orange. But I'll hit you up after this to figure out when I need to come out to West Orange and check out y'all this year. But
Yes,
thank you
sir.
again for all your time and coming on and talking with us, man.
All right, man. No problem, man. Thanks for having me again, man. I know we'll talk.
Yes, sir. Much
All
appreciated.
right. Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Phenomenal interview from Coach Chris Mitchell. Again, he is the founder, head coach, and defensive coordinator of 24K 7-on-7, as well as the current defensive backs coach at West Orange High School, previous defensive backs coach at Winter Park High School, and then coached wide receivers at Oak Ridge. So, a wealth of knowledge, somebody that's coached a number of big time prospects, sent several players Power Five in Division One. So he's a little humble. He says the players make him look good, and while that is true, he is a phenomenal coach. I've seen him work in person. Somebody that I'm actually very close with personally, so I'm really glad he could come on and chop it up with us for a little bit. With regards to the coaching side of things, because like I said with him on the show, we have the kids come on, we have them tell us their side of things, but it's always good to see the coach's perspective. You got 7-on-7 coaches and high school coaches that really work super hard to get these kids to the next level. Them and the parents are the unsung heroes of those recruitments, sacrificing their time because coaches have families too, so they sacrifice a lot of their time with their families, their personal lives, to be able to get these kids to the next level and do what they can to help these kids out. So I thought it was very important that we get one of those guys on here. And like I said, personal connection to Coach Chris Mitchell. a phenomenal human being, phenomenal individual, and somebody that I really respect. I've learned a lot from him over the course of the last few years that I've known him. But we'll continue on. Continue on where we left off with the top schools. We have 2024 number 2 offensive tackle Cam Pringle from Woodland High School in Dorchester, South Carolina. He's narrowed his list of schools down to 10. That's NC State, Tennessee, LSU, Virginia, Florida, South Carolina, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia, and Auburn. Young man actually just announced in an interview today that he is the cousin of former Florida Gator offensive tackle Jawan Taylor. Did not know that, so that's good news if you're a Florida fan, because there's a little bit of a family connection. While he is from South Carolina, so I think Clemson and South Carolina may have the leg up in that recruitment early on in the process. Florida won't be far out because I know Jawan speaks very highly of the University of Florida. And then you also have 2024 four-star cornerback Assad Brown from Oscar Smith High School in Chesapeake, Virginia. He's also narrowed his list down to 10 schools, with Arkansas, Ole Miss, Virginia Tech, LSU, North Carolina, Penn State, Mississippi State, FSU, NC State, and Clemson making the cut. Then we're going to move over to some scheduled commitments. We've got some commitments coming up over the next week that I'm going to make some predictions. Unfortunately, Curtis is not here, so he can't give you the sticks picks, but I will give you my predictions on a couple of these prospects. First off, we're going to lead off with the person that we spoke about first, four-star linebacker Blake Nicholson from Manteca, California. As I said previously, he's down to Oregon, FSU, and UCLA, set to announce on September 20th. He will be making his decision. I believe it's on CBS Sports 247 network, and I believe that the Seminoles will end up being the pick for him there, which would be a fantastic get for Mike Norvell to go all the way over to the West Coast and land a four-star linebacker from California. Then we have Sam Green, who I also spoke about previously, somebody that I said had really exploded onto the recruiting scene. Didn't have many big-time offers up until 3 weeks ago when he added Boston College, Penn State, USC, and Texas A&M. Being that he's from Baltimore, Maryland, this is a complete shot out of the dark because I don't really know much about this young man's recruitment. I believe it comes down to USC or Penn State. I'm going to go ahead and take a wild guess here and say Penn State, simply because that is closer to home. But I do think USC, it would not surprise me if that is the school, because he spoke very highly of USC in an interview that he did following the offer. Then we'll move over to four-star wide receiver Adam Hopkins from Thomas County Central High School in Thomasville, Georgia. He commits on September 15th, which is tomorrow, the day that you guys will be listening to it on Thursday. I believe he's going to end up going to Auburn. Auburn's done a fantastic job of recruiting the Georgia area, and I think he's going to be the next one in that line. He does Brian Harson, we've talked about him a little bit over the course of our podcast, and while he is considered by some to be on the hot seat, I do think he lands this kid. They just lost Carmelo English from the recruiting class, so Hopkins would be a very nice pickup to replace English. And then we have four-star defensive lineman Jordan Renaud. We spoke about him on previous episodes. And Jordan Renaud is a prospect that I got to see in person at Future 50. He has a commitment date set for September 19th, which will be next Monday. Next Monday before we record. So I believe he will end up making a decision to commit to Alabama. Alabama is a program that's recruited the state of Texas pretty well in recent memory. I think Oklahoma was a strong front runner early in his recruitment, but Alabama seems to have turned up the heat since things have gotten closer to his commitment date. And I think ultimately that the Crimson Tide secure that commitment. And then now I want to make sure that we shout out our sponsor, Sativadol. Sativadol is a veteran-owned company that offers 3 different products: CBD soft gels for you and your pets, a roll-on for pain relief. The soft gels come from a trusted source that manages the product from seed to sell and are often recommended by medical professionals as part of your regular wellness routine. The roll-on's formulated by pharmacists for quick, effective results and has that menthol for extra cooling relief. Make sure you check out sativadol.com for these products. Use promo code VARSITY25 for 25% off your order. Again, that's sativadol.com. Use promo code VARSITY25 for 25% off your order and help support the podcast. Now we're going to move on to commitments. There aren't many to cover, like we've said previously. I've got 3 commitments to go over here, but a couple of big ones. 4-star number 6 interior offensive lineman TJ Shanahan from Westlake High School in Austin, Texas, actually originally from the Orlando area, attended Timber Creek High School before moving out to Texas. Committed to Texas A&M over nearly 40 other offers that included Georgia, LSU, Alabama, and Florida. The young man had a who's who of offer lists, had his choice of programs to pick from. Really quite an impressive individual. I've had the chance to speak with him on a number of occasions. Texas A&M got themselves a fantastic individual and an even better football player. An absolute road grader at offensive guard, which I think he plays at the next level. Really an impressive prospect. Then we go to 4-star offensive tackle Logan Reichert from Raytown High School in Kansas City, Missouri. The Varsity podcast was correct on this one. He committed to Missouri over his final schools of Oregon. So on this episode, we are still 100%. We might be proven wrong on the next episode, or I might be proven wrong since Sticks isn't here to join us this evening. But we were correct on that one. And then 2024 3-star quarterback James Racer from Bishop Kenny High School in Jacksonville, Florida, committed to the Iowa Hawkeyes. And that wraps up our commitments for this evening. And then finally, I want to make sure we shout out Dying to Self. Dying to Self is a faith-based clothing brand that is all about selfless living, designed with various aesthetic and neutral styles of shirts and hoodies with top quality and comfort in mind. Use promo code VARSITY10 at dyingtoself.co for 10% off your order. Well, guys, that about wraps it up for this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. I know you probably got tired of hearing my voice drone on the entire time after having Coach Mitchell on here. But once again, I want to shout out Coach Mitchell. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Phenomenal interview. Always a pleasure to talk with that gentleman. And I have learned a lot, like I said, multiple times on this podcast from him over the course of the last few years that I've known him, and really appreciate him for joining us. But with that being said, that'll be it for this episode. Since we don't have a recruit joining us this evening, I'm going to close us out with a song that I want to do just because I'm on the podcast by myself. I get the chance to do that, right? So today I will be closing us out with some Rod Wave, Youngin' featuring Jack Harlow. And with that, Roll Up Varsity, signing off.